In the iconic 1995 film Braveheart, the Scottish revolutionary hero William Wallace, played by Mel Gibson, he's been captured in his fight for Scotland's independence. He has been sentenced to death for treason against King Edward I of England, Edward Longshanks. He's being held there in the Tower of London. And he's visited there in his cell by Princess Isabel, the king's daughter-in-law, who has fallen in love with Wallace. And she pleads with him to repent, to swear allegiance to the king, and to beg for his mercy in the unlikely event that he might avoid execution. When he resists, the princess says, "You will die. It will be awful." And Wallace replies, "Every man dies. Not every man really lives." And that's enough to get you fired up to go take the battlefield, right? Every man dies. Not every man really lives. The point, of course, is that since every person, every single one of us, will one day face death, the fear of dying should not deter us from living our lives, from taking advantage of the opportunities before us now, from holding fast to our convictions, from fulfilling our calling and purpose while we have breath in our lungs. All die, some live. All die, some live. Now, I don't know if Mel Gibson ever read the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes. I don't know if the screenwriter who wrote that line in the script of Braveheart ever read Ecclesiastes. I don't know if the real-life William Wallace ever read Ecclesiastes back when he lived in the 13th century. But in the book of Ecclesiastes, the preacher, this character who has been searching for meaning and purpose and fulfillment in all the things that this life has to offer, and who keeps hitting dead ends and keeps coming up empty, he makes a very similar point about death and life, about the certainty of death and the opportunity for life. Say it with me. All die, some live. Now, for the sake of review and reminder, the preacher, the author, the narrator of the book of Ecclesiastes, he spent the first half of the book seeking and searching and testing and wondering. And now in the second half of the book, he's begun offering his observations, his lessons learned from all the things that he's seen. And they all keep returning to this same truth, and it's this: we are not God and cannot become like him. We can't know it all, we can't have it all, we can't understand it all, we can't do it all, we can't achieve it all, we can't experience it all. We cannot attain lasting satisfaction and be remembered forever. The only thing that is guaranteed is that one day we will die. So I want to invite you this morning to take a Bible, turn with me to Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and we're going to see together what the preacher says about the universal experience of death and how we should approach life in the world today in light of that. If you're using a pew Bible, Ecclesiastes 9 begins on page 557, if that's helpful. But as we read, let us consider how these realities that we see might stir in us a longing for something more than this life, something deeper. And so I'll ask you to follow along as I read Ecclesiastes chapter 9, beginning in verse 1. The Holy Spirit speaks to us here through the preacher when he says this: "But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know, both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and to the wicked. to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. Again, I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know his time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them. Grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. So in our text this morning, the preacher delivers three truths to cure us of the idea that we can be our own gods and be in control of our destinies. That's something that we might be tempted to think, might be tempted to believe or deceive ourselves in, that we are the ones who are in control of everything. And the preacher in Ecclesiastes gives us three things to counter that. The first truth is this: one thing is certain. One thing is certain. Now, he's made this point before, earlier in the book of Ecclesiastes, but he really drills down on it here, that the only thing we can count on in this life is that we will die, and that death is closer now than when you woke up this morning. You came here for a word of encouragement like that, didn't you? The only guarantee is we will die, and that death is closer now than it was when you got up. It's closer now than when you walked in the door. It's closer now than when I began this sermon. It's closer with every passing second. And that's true no matter who we are, no matter where we come from or what we've done or what we have. We can't know ahead of time if our own lives will be filled with love or hate or some mix of the two, but all people, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the religious and the irreligious, the believer and the unbeliever, the truth teller and the liar, all get put in the same ground in the end. And he's careful to say that this is an evil. Death is an evil. Death is an enemy, right? It's not just the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way it was designed to be when God created life. Death is a curse. Death is the wages of sin. It's the consequence of our rebellion against a good and loving God. So death is an enemy. Death is an evil. And the fact that it seems to take both the good and the bad indiscriminately, randomly, he says that's an evil as well. Shouldn't be that way. That's unfair. It makes no sense to us. It appears unjust to us. But it's not random, is it? It's not just a roll of the dice. He says that all of it is in God's hands, under the control of his providence and his sovereign rule. What seems random to us is not random at all. What we don't know, he does. What we can't control, he can. And if that's true, then life is not empty. Life is not worthless. Life has value. Life is worth living. To be alive, he says, is to have hope. If you're alive, you have opportunity now that you don't have if you're dead. There's coming a day when all you have and all you are will be forgotten. But for now, you can have hope. As long as you're alive, you have an opportunity to live for something that lasts beyond death. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to be in control of everything. You don't have to have everything. You can simply know and trust and follow Jesus, and that can be enough. If I know and trust him, I can face the certainty of death with confidence. Don't have to be afraid of it. Yes, it's an enemy. Yes, it's an evil, but I can face it with confidence. Now, that doesn't mean that our hearts don't break when people that we love die. Facing death in confidence, with confidence, doesn't mean that you just get over it and you don't mourn, that you don't grieve. It doesn't mean that we aren't driven to our knees in sorrow. It means that we understand that death is the limit that God has placed on people who seek to be gods. It means death happens to us because we are sinners. Death happens to me because I am a sinner. In a sense, I am the cause of my own death, right? It means that every death, every funeral, is a reminder that we live in a fallen world under the curse of death. It means I don't deserve and have not earned a single day of my life. I have not earned years, old age. It is only by God's mercy that I am alive right now. It means that I hold this present life, all that I am, all that I have, all that I do, loosely, because I love Jesus more than any of it. And I consider the prospect of going to be with him to be gain. And there's benefit to coming to terms with that now. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what you're facing or what you've been through. But there is value, there is benefit in you coming to grips with that truth now, where you sit, even if you're not facing death or the death of a loved one in the foreseeable future. There is value in preparing for this certainty before it comes out of nowhere and punches you in the gut without warning, because it's going to. And preparing for it doesn't mean that you live in some sort of dark, morbid, cynical existence. It means that you think about how to live now in light of what's coming. So the preacher began with one thing that is certain. If you skip to the end of the passage, the last two verses, you'll see that he finishes with a second truth, and that is that many things are uncertain. So one thing is certain, many things are uncertain. This is the flip side of the coin, the opposite extreme. I don't know about you, I find it ironic that we often live as though the one thing that is certain will never happen to us, and that the many things that are certain, we've got all those things under control, or that are uncertain are under our control. And the preacher gives some examples of that. He says usually the fastest runner wins the race, right? Going into the Olympics, you know who the favorites are. You know the people who have set the fastest times. You can pretty much count on the fastest people to cross the finish line first. Usually the stronger fighter wins the battle. Usually Goliath beats David. Usually the wise person who plans for the future prospers. Usually the educated person gets the better job and makes the better living. Usually the person who understands how things work has the advantage. But not always. Right? What does he say? The race is not always to the swift. The battle is not always to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge. He says time and chance happen to them all. Things happen. Situations arise. Circumstances change. Unforeseen events come up. What you expect to happen doesn't always happen. You can't predict what's going to happen. You can't know the future. Like the fish who 1 second swimming in that lake without a care in the world, and the next minute he gets snatched up in a net. Not expecting it. Or the bird who is contentedly pecking food off of the ground and then suddenly gets trapped out of nowhere, catches him off guard. Our lives are susceptible to the same unexpected twists and turns. Think about the tragedies that have happened to you, things that have happened, terrible things, the medical diagnosis, the car accident, the natural disaster, the lost job, the death of a loved one. Most times you didn't wake up that morning with that thing on your calendar. It was unexpected. I think we all have dreams of how our lives are going to go, how our futures are going to unfold. If you're young, if you're not young, think back to when you were young. But when you're young, you have these plans, right? I'm going to finish school. I'm going to find a job. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to make money. I'm going to grow old. I'm going to retire. Then I'm going to travel. And then maybe one day I'll die peacefully in my sleep at a ripe old age. We have it all scripted out, don't we? Now maybe that happens. Or maybe you die in 6 months. Maybe you never finish school. Maybe you never get that job. Maybe you never get married, never make that money, never have kids, never get to retire and travel. If you put your hope in the uncertain things that take place under the sun, one tiny hiccup can derail everything. He says it, man does not know his time. You don't know what's going to forget next year. You don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. It's beyond our ability to know. It's why these words are intended to provoke in us a faith in something not under the sun, a faith in something that is beyond this place, beyond this world, beyond this life. These words are written ultimately to stir in us a hope in something certain, something fixed and firm. Tomorrow is not, from our perspective, is not known, is not fixed and firm, is not certain, but we long for something to be solid. These words are written to drive us to approach life and the future in the words of James 4, verses 13 and through 15, when James says, "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that." So that leaves us with the question, the puzzle. My death is certain. We're all in agreement on that, right? But the timing of my death and the circumstances of my life leading up to that are uncertain. So what should my life look like in the meantime? How do I navigate that? The certainty that one day I will die, but I don't know when, I don't know how, and I don't know what's going to happen until I get to that point. What should my life look like between now and then? Well, here's his answer. If one day you will be dead, and you don't know when that day will be, live today while you can. That's what he says. Enjoy the life God has given you and the simple things that gladden your heart. His point is this: good things are gifts. You didn't earn them. You didn't work for them. They didn't originate with you. They are gifts from the hand of God. The joys of this life are because of God's grace toward you. Now, the preacher has said things like this before, but almost in passing. Here, he hammers it home with a series of commands. He tells us what to do. He says, go. Go. Stop dragging your feet. Stop wasting time. Seize the day. All die, some live, so you live. Live this life. Launch yourself into the world, and through this life with purpose, with intention, live like you mean it, know what you're about. Don't just sit around and wait for life to happen to you. Do something. Live it. Go. He says, eat. Eat your food with joy. Don't just eat to survive. Eat to savor all the things that God has given you to. And some of y'all have listened to this verse right here, right? Me included. I don't have to be told a second time. Eat your food with joy. Yes. I'm going to do that today. He says, drink your wine with gladness. Don't always just gulp down your beverages. Sip them, savor them, enjoy them. They're a gift of God. And then he tells us why. He says, God has already approved what you do. God already takes pleasure in your enjoyments of his gifts that he has granted you. And that's been the way he's operated since the beginning, right? In the garden, he gave Adam and Eve this entire garden, and what did he tell them? Before he told them, don't eat that one tree, what did he tell them? Eat whatever you want. As much as you want. There's one tree that you can't eat from, and we focus on that because that's what caused our problem, right? But before that, he says, I've given you a whole garden. Eat of any tree as much as you want. Enjoy it. Feast on it. Savor it. Does that sound like a God who's withholding good things from us? He says, take, eat, enjoy. You see the same attitude of God in the promised land when how did he describe it? The land of milk and honey that he brought his people into for them to enjoy the fruit of. Jesus, during his earthly ministry, went to a wedding, a party, and turned water into wine for people to drink and enjoy. He fed 5,000 people with just a little bit of bread and fish, turning it into a feast until they ate until what? They were full. The early church ate food together with glad and generous hearts. It's always been God's purpose that we should delight in his provision. Psalm 104, verses 14 and 15, you cause the grass to grow for the livestock and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth food from the earth and wine to gladden the heart of man, oil to make his face shine, and bread to strengthen man's heart. It's a gift. Good things are gifts. So it's not about gaining or acquiring or earning or accumulating. It's not about the meaning you can find for yourself or create yourself. It's about realizing God has given you this life and these gifts to enjoy, and it is his pleasure to do so. And what is the best way to respond to a good gift? Enjoy it, right? Parents, grandparents, when you give a gift to a child, what is the best response that you can get, even better than a heartfelt thank you? What thrills your heart even more than having them say thank you? It's watching them play with that gift, right? It's watching them enjoy that thing that you've given them. That's the satisfaction. We honor God and we bring him glory when we enjoy the good gifts he gives, and we do so with thankful hearts, recognizing that they have come from his hand. Which is why he says to wear white garments and put oil on your head. Now, that's something strange. We don't typically do that, but those are signs culturally in that culture of celebration and joy. In that culture, if you were mourning, you would wear sackcloth and you would put ashes on your head. Now, there is a place for mourning, for sorrow. Remember, we read back in chapter 7, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. He says, sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of face the heart is made glad. He says, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. He's not contradicting himself here. There is absolutely benefit in mourning in that it teaches us to number our days, but that doesn't mean that we have to go through life gloomy. It shouldn't turn us all into Eeyore, right? Oh, bother. Right? That's not the intention when he says it's better to go to the house of mourning, that we just walk around cynical, always seeing the negative side of things. Just because you know you're going to die one day, you don't have to start the funeral now. Let whatever days you have left be full of life and joy. He adds that you should enjoy your spouse. Those of you who are married, cherish and delight in the person God has given you. Don't just tolerate them. Enjoy them. In every way, enjoy them. God made a physical world and he filled it with good things. We live in a physical world with physical food and drink and people and clothing and beauty. Even though all those things are to varying degrees marred and distorted by sin, they aren't erased by sin. Think about the most beautiful buildings in the world. Westminster Abbey, Notre Dame Cathedral, the Palace at Versailles, the Hagia Sophia, the Taj Mahal. You've seen that, right? With the pool leading up to this beautiful, ornate building. If someone vandalized the Taj Mahal, sprayed graffiti all over the walls, dumped garbage all over the ground, filled the pool with trash, it would still be the Taj Mahal. Right? Marred, distorted, vandalized, but not gone. So take joy in food and drink. Take joy in books and movies. Take joy in competition and sports. Take joy in friends and family. Take joy in music and art. Take joy in exercise and games, in work and play, in travel and leisure. Take joy in service and sacrifice. Take joy in ministry and evangelism, in generosity and hospitality. Whatever your hand finds to do, what does he say? Do it with all your might. Live with and for others while you can. So those are the three truths given to correct any notion that we are in charge of life. One thing is certain, many things are uncertain, and good things are gifts. But I want to close this morning with one final point that the preacher doesn't make explicitly here, but that we can see when we put this lesson in the context of the rest of the Bible, especially the New Testament. And it's this: gifts are not gods. Good things are gifts, but gifts are not gods. We are intended to enjoy the good gifts of God, but not to worship them as though they were gods themselves. We are to live life here and now while understanding that life here and now is not ultimate. So enjoy food and drink, absolutely. Feast, celebrate, savor. But listen to me, if food and drink become your God, you become a glutton, and what was once delightful to you becomes the means of your destruction. What you used to enjoy ends up destroying you. So enjoy it, but don't let it become a God. Enjoy your spouse. Gaze into one another's eyes. Whisper sweet nothings in each other's ears. Be intimate with each other. But if sex becomes your God, it becomes inadequate and unfulfilling and will eventually lead you to seek pleasure elsewhere. The very thing that was a delight for you, if it becomes your God, becomes destructive. And it's the same thing with your family, or with your friends, or with work, or with media, or with sports. Enjoy those things, take advantage of those things, but when they become objects of your worship, they cannot deliver what you are wanting them to, and you end up empty and disappointed. You see, those good gifts weren't given as an end in themselves. They weren't given to us so that we would be satisfied just in them, just like death and grief and mourning and sorrow and loss were given to us by God so that we would long for something more than this broken world cursed by death. It's the same thing with his gifts. God's good gifts are given to make us homesick for something better, something lasting, something truly satisfying. The best things of this life, the best food, the best relationships, the deepest pleasures are simply a preview of even better things to come. In Isaiah 25, we're told of a day when God will gather all of his people together. And listen to how it describes this gathering. It says, "On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will make for all people a feast of rich foods, a feast of well-aged wine, of rich food full of marrow, of aged wine well refined. And he will swallow up on this mountain the covering that is cast over all peoples, the veil that is spread over all nations. He will swallow up death forever, and the Lord will wipe away tears from all faces, and the reproach of his people he will take away from all the earth, for the Lord has spoken." What a day. What a promise, right? A feast of rich food, well-aged wine, every tear wiped away, and death swallowed up forever. It's better than anything we could ever hope for in this life. And yet, the feasting that we do in this life is meant to point us to it and prepare us for it. Jesus describes it in Luke 14 as the great banquet in God's kingdom. In Revelation 19, it's described as the marriage supper of the Lamb. God's good world, filled with his good gifts now, is meant to be enjoyed with others, and we eat and we drink together now in anticipation of feasting together then. Are you prepared for that feast? Do you look forward to it? Maybe the more pressing question is, will you be invited? Because not everyone will be. You secure your invitation to that feast by confessing what the preacher tells us in verse 3, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil. You see, all of us have sinned against a holy God and have earned for ourselves the sentence of eternal death, the wrath of God poured out in judgment on us for our sin. And there's nothing that we can do to fix it. There's nothing we can do to avoid it. That's the bad news. Death is coming and judgment with it. But there's good news. The good news is that same Jesus who lived and walked and ate and drank with sinners died to suffer the death of all who would place their faith in him. And he rose again to conquer death, to set us free from its bondage so we don't have to fear it anymore. And those who trust in what Christ has done through his life, his death, and his resurrection receive the gift of new life and forgiveness of sin and eternity with him, feasting on his goodness with his people forever. All die, say it with me, some live. I want to close this morning with a quote from Scottish pastor David Gibson. Gibson writes this: "Those without Christ often abandon themselves to eating and drinking because sometimes it looks as if that's all there is to do before we die. But those who love Christ cherish eating and drinking because it looks a little like what we will do after we die. We eat and drink now as we vanish from the earth like a vapor. But one day we will eat and drink in the city of the King, where death will have vanished from the earth forever. All die, some live. Live now in such a way that you're preparing to live then." Let's pray.